What's up, y'all? Welcome to the conclusion episode of season 2 of the Parent Network podcast. Listen, in this season, we have heard some amazing women and their journey in motherhood. We've listened to corporate moms, therapist moms, stay at home moms, and the likes. And it has been amazing to just glean the wisdom from each guest. So, shout out to every guest that has voiced on this podcast. It has been amazing, and I have had some amazing feedback from everyone. And I love that some of these women have come out of their shell to do this. And so, this is what this platform is all about. It is about community. It is about coming together. It is about lifting one another up. It is about being a bridge. That is something that you will always find me doing, is being a bridge. Now, before we get into just the fun of this episode, I want to do some preliminaries because I haven't in a while. First of all, 2023 is ending very soon. Woo, and Christmas is around the corner because listen, once November is here, it's Christmas time. That's period. Now, what I want to say is the Parent Network is opening its doors, as I've mentioned before, to fathers. This is a parent network. And so, as I have been exclusive to mentoring and pouring into women, moms, I am now making sure that all of that wisdom that I have is accessible to the men, to the fathers. And so, if you are a dad, and you are looking for community, if you are a couple, mom and dad, and you're looking for community, or you are a single parent, mom or father, looking for community, I want you to email the THEE parent, PARENT network, NETWORK @gmail.com. And in the subject title, I want you to put membership because the Parent Network is opening its doors in 2024 to all parents. And I'm excited for what this is going to be because, again, I have had the privilege and the honor to mentor moms for the last 2 years under Mama's Lounge membership. But that is going to be no more going from 2024 forward because it's time to welcome all parents, moms, and dads, for us to come together, for us to collaborate, for us to learn together, for us to grow together, for us to share our wisdom with one another. And what you can look forward to within this membership community is, first of all, you will gain community. That is what you will gain. And we all need community. We all need relationships. We all need to be stretched and even challenged sometimes in the way that we think, in a healthy way. Okay. Let me emphasize that, in a healthy way. You'll also receive parenting strategies. Now, I don't really dig too much into parenting strategies because I understand that parenting dynamics are different. I always offer my lens, my expertise, what has worked for me, but I don't put that on anyone. What you also gain being in this community is we dig into emotional development. That is my jam, okay? That is what I love to do, is to teach you how to really process those emotions, how to utilize what you're feeling, not just to say, oh, I'm feeling this way, but what is it trying to tell you? And how that is intertwined in your parenting space, but also your personal space. So interpersonal relationships are built within this community. How to care for self, how to love self, because as much as we love ourselves, is how we're going to love our children, our partners, our spouses, whatever relationship that you find yourself into. So that is like the icing, the bread, the butter, the meat, all of the intricate parts is the emotional development. That's what we hone in on, and that's done through teachings. So there are weekly teachings that I do, and then we get in community night and we talk about what we have been learning. We ask questions. Again, this is and has been a baby of mine that is now time to grow. And so it is time to grow with all of parents, mothers and fathers, inclusive, not exclusive. Now, I will say this. There will be some exclusive times where I pour into the moms, where I only pour into the dads, and I bring in guests. Over the last 2 years, I have been able to bring in guests in the Mama's Lounge, and that will not be any different as we pivot to the Parent Network Hub. So I wanted to just put that preliminary out there because it's open. You guys can email so that you can get the link to be able to sign up for this membership. You will not regret it. I can guarantee that. We also do annual summits. So this past October was the second annual summit that I did. Again, because I have been specifically geared towards the moms. This was Mom Summit 2023. We were in Lake Arrowhead and it was amazing. So next year will be no different. It will be amazing, but it will be inclusive with fathers. And so I am excited to stretch myself in another way, but also to see the growth because men need to heal as well. And as you all will hear in the season 3 of this podcast, I interviewed men, fathers, and listening to their stories, their perspectives. It's necessary. And they all have shared about their healing process. And so I'm excited for you all to hear season 3. So make sure, number one, you're tuned in to the Parent Network podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, or the internet, however you find us on your podcast channel. Also, make sure you're downloading the episodes and sharing it. Make sure you're answering the polls and the questions if you are a Spotify user, because that helps me to engage you all in more content. So that's the preliminaries, y'all. Okay. That's the good stuff. Now we are going to get into today's episode, which is going to just be fun because we're closing out season 2. And I had the opportunity to sit down, like I said, with some amazing moms and some amazing women. And I received some feedback on a lot of these episodes. And a lot of women, a lot of moms have had questions. And so I want to dig into some of those questions on this episode and offer my advice. I'm not the end all be all, but on this here podcast, I'm the expert, okay? I am the expert at what I know. And I think that it's important that as parents, we start to realize that we do have expertise and that our expertise that we utilize in parenting is transferable to real life, because what better job is there than being a parent? Oh, y'all, one more shameless plugs. Merchandise will be available starting on Black Friday. Be on the lookout for that. I will link that into the podcast episodes, but also on the website. The website has been revamped, and so be on the lookout for that starting in November. I am excited. Y'all. I'm excited. Because I have been sitting on things just out of my own procrastination, out of my own need to want to make things perfect. And we know that there's no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as the perfect timing. We are allowed to create these spaces of times where we get the idea. And for me, pray about the idea, or sometimes there's not even prayer that needs to go forth. I just need to execute. So this is me executing, and that's that. that's that. So be on the lookout, y'all, for the links that you can purchase your merch. You can purchase your digital planner, the physical planners. I look to have those available starting in January of 2024. And then also the Parent Network membership. If you would like to be a part of that, you can email. All of that information will be in the description of this here podcast. Now, let's get into some of these questions that were asked. First of all, I should have had them pulled up. That's the first thing that I should have did. And I didn't. And now I have to go through my email to see where these questions are. And that's no bueno. But until I do that, I just want to talk briefly about holiday season and like what that looks like for single parents. One of the things that I have been blessed to have over the last, I'll say over the last 7 years, honestly, is my children's grandparents have always, for the most part, taken care of Christmas. I have never had to worry about them not having. I've never had to worry about if they desired something, it not being there. And in the moments where I thought like, they may not, I always had a conversation with them. And they both know the true meaning of Christmas. My oldest son, he'll be 16. Woof. He'll be 16 in January, and he's very close to Christmas. And so it was like, are you going to do Christmas or are you going to do birthday? And this was me thinking in my mind, but I'm like, they have some weeks kind of spread out, so you have to separate them. And what that really started to teach me, it wasn't budgeting. I'm not even gonna lie, it didn't teach me budgeting because every year Christmas comes on December 25th, and every year it was just like, okay, grandparents, this is their list. But for me, what it taught me was, because my children are blessed to have, I want to be a blessing to another parent that is or has been in my position, and does not have what they desire to have for their child or their children. I understand the struggle. Just take Christmas off the table. I understand the struggle of being a single parent and having to take care of all of the bills. Okay? Every single last bill that comes through your household. And make sure you're maintaining extracurricular activities. Make sure you are maintaining, the hygiene, all of the things that it takes to raise and steward these children. I get it. So at the end of the year, when they're desirous of certain things and it's not within your budget, I understand what that can do mentally. But again, being grateful for the fact that I've had family on both sides to help me. And so this year I had made a goal and I said, you know what? I want to be able to be in a position to bless another family, another single mom. Started off strong, like I'm putting this money aside because this is what it's for. And then what happened, y'all? Life hit. Life hit. And I kind of got hard on myself. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. I got really hard on myself. Like, you were supposed to have X amount of money saved up. You had the money saved up, but then what happened? Life happened. And you used the money because life happened. And so it was like, oh, I'm not in the position to do what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. But what I have to learn is, if you have a heart of generosity, whatever it is that you do out of the depths of your heart, and you're doing it unto God, it's counted for. And so for me, I'm still going to gift a single parent this year. It may not be what I wanted to, but it is going to be something because that was my goal. That was my desire for this year. So I encourage us as parents. And I understand that it may not be ideal for everyone to do right now where they are. But if you are able to give, okay, give to someone, find an organization, find a nonprofit, find a family you may already know, find someone that you don't know, and just give. Let this time be about giving and teaching our children about giving. And I don't just say that because it's the holidays, because my youngest son, literally, he was born with a heart to give. He has such a burden for homeless people that he would cry when he sees them and get so upset and say, I don't understand why we have all of these buildings and they just let the people be on the streets. And I used to be like, I don't know, son. But it showed me, and he was the one, and I ain't gonna hold y'all, that really awakened a deeper depth, rather. I won't say more, a deeper depth of giving and understanding what sacrifice looks like and understanding what being selfless looks like. Because he was ready to give whatever he had on his back. And I was like, well, that doesn't fit them. But every time he got money, he was giving them their money. He was giving them, excuse me, the money that he had. And it got so to the point where he would tell me, Mom, you need to keep some money on you because you need to have money to give to the people that don't have any money. And I used to look at him like, okay. Until God was showing me like, yeah, that's me in him. And so fostering that, growing that in him helped to really reignite a fire within me. Because like I said on season 1, and I believe y'all have heard it before, I used to be a homeless child with my mom. And around Christmas, I know what it's like to not have, to receive gifts from those that are in the shelter that you're a part of. And my desire, my vision just for parents is so big. And I know God is going to enable me to fulfill this vision. So yeah, that's my little PSA for you all. All right. So some questions that were asked to me, not just about the podcast, but just about, parenting in general. I found them. Okay. One of them was about my top 5 values, and do I feel compelled to instill them into my children? Now, I think that's an important question, and I've answered this on one of the episodes in the podcast, but I'll go back over just some values that are important to me. Number 1 value that is important to me, and they're not in any chronological order. And I say number 1 is just what's coming to my mind that I know is a value for me is respect. I am big on respect. If I give you respect, I expect it in return. This goes from the children on up. I believe in them giving respect, and I believe that I have to give them respect because I'm not raising a child, I'm raising a human being. So if I would not want someone to talk to me in a tone, in a way, I do my very best not to talk to my children in that tone and in that way, and I expect the same in return. Respect. Another value for me is honesty. And I know y'all heard that emphasis on honesty. I cannot stand a liar. Period. period. I tell my kids all this time, what is the one thing that I cannot stand? And sometimes they act like, huh? I said, what's the one thing that I really cannot stand? And they say, oh, a liar. Absolutely. If you are honest with me, I am going to respect you, number one. And then the trust factor is not going to be broken because you respected me enough to tell me the truth. Y'all see how this ties in together? So, honesty is literally my policy of love. It's one of my love languages. Be honest with me. Tell me the truth. I can handle the truth even if it hurts more than trying to recover from a lie. Because what happens when we lie, you all, and when we allow our children to come into this thing with lying, is it breeds a fear. That's literally what a lie does. It breeds a fear that I can't tell the truth to this person because I'm afraid of what would happen. And so if we are being intentional to foster and create an environment in our home with our children in our relational spaces of honesty and love, then that eradicates that fear and that need to want to lie. So, respect, honesty, those are two core values that I instill, yes, into my children. Now, do they follow it all the time? No. Do I still love them? Absolutely. But one of the things that they do know is they really can't get away with too much because I have the super power, which is Holy Spirit. So he always reveals what I need to know. And I believe that that has helped me tremendously in my journey of parenting. And so that leads me to another core value is Jesus. Jesus is the pillar. He is the cornerstone. He is the foundation and the door in which I parent on because I know what it was like to be parented from a dysfunctional place. And so honoring my mother in what she gave me, but also learning to change the narrative has been impactful. And one of the things that I had told God when I decided to have a relationship with him for myself was number one, you're going to have to help me parent my children properly because I don't really know what I'm doing. And then the second thing was, I don't want it done how it was done to me. I'm not forcing my kids to go to church every Sunday because I go to church. Do I create an atmosphere and an environment in my home? Absolutely. Do I make the word of God as relevant to their lives as possible? I do try. I mentioned to you all about an emotions box that we created. And from that emotions box, we talk about whatever that emotion is that they are feeling or have dealt with that week. And then what I do is I pair it with a scripture for them to be able to say, pray into, and meditate on. Because the word of God is foundational in my home. Now, what that looks like is they know mom loves God. Mom, is active in church. Mom is one that life is seeking to exemplify and glorify God. Keyword on seeking to. I am not perfect, and I'm never going to try to paint a picture that I am perfect and that we get it right all the time. But these are value systems in my home that I'm instilling in them. And I'm planting the seed because as they get older and as they journey through their life experience, the seed will be there. And when it's time, the harvest will come forth. So those three values are something that have been instilled in them. I would say for the fourth one, and this is one that has really kind of crept in, over the last, I would say the last 7 years, with a really big emphasis on the last 3 years is being relational, having strong and healthy relationships. I desire for my children to have healthy relationships. So to ask the hard questions. One of the things that I tell them both all the time, and we've talked about before, not everybody is your friend. Okay. Not everybody is your friend. And I know a lot of times we use that word just very loosely, but we have to be careful of using the word friend and attaching it to people that don't know us, that don't know themselves. They're not our friend. They may be an associate, they may be a peer, a coworker. And let's become okay with using those type of words. Oh, this is my coworker. Oh, this is my classmate. Oh, this is my peer. Oh, this is an associate that I know, an acquaintance. That doesn't demean who they are, but that puts proper perspective on that relationship. And so that's something that I have really been working with my kids about, and to the fact that they know when I'm getting ready to correct them. Like, okay, if they say that this is my friend, this is what I ask them. How do you know that this is your friend? My 9-year-old really surprised me in conversation one day about that. And I was very, very proud of him. Like, oh, okay. What I'm talking about is getting into your headspace. I love to hear it. And so learning to differentiate, and navigate relationships well is important to me, because I want them to be healthy in their relationships. I want them to be healthy within themselves first so that they are able to foster healthy relationships. Which leads me probably to number 5, which is a value of mine, is communication. We gonna talk, okay? What we will do is talk. Now, if you need a moment to gather yourself before we talk, no problem. I used to be one, again, as I've said before, I am a recovering control addict. So I used to parent from a space of control. No, you're going to sit and talk to me. We're going to do this. I used to be that way in my relationships, platonic relationships and romantic relationships. And it didn't work well for me, y'all. Okay. However, when I started to do my own work and got to the core and the root of why that was, I was like, yeah. So I've definitely been doing this in my parenting, and I need to pull back. I need to stop because it's not helpful, especially raising boys. Boy moms, okay? Y'all know what I'm talking about, because the information that you give them goes in one ear and out the other sometimes, especially if you give them too much. So communication is a huge core value that I uphold in raising my children and within myself. Having that courageous conversation, that healthy conversation, the necessary conversation, however you want to spin it. It is importante to communicate. Because what communication does, it opens up the lane for a different perspective. Sometimes we are seeing things just from our own perspective, but when we give it to whomever needs to hear what we have to say, we're now opening up to hear their perspective, which can then change our perspective. So, whatever way you want to look at it, y'all, communication is a core value. So, for me, respect, honesty, Jesus, communication, and relationships, building and fostering healthy relationships. Those are 5 values that I am endeavoring to instill into both of my children, so that they can live literally a healthy and a fulfilled life. Okay? So those are some of my values. And so I'll make sure that in this episode, I put another question so that way you all can give me some questions, and then I can do a podcast just answering questions that you all might have for me. Another question that was asked of me, and this wasn't asked of me from the podcast, this was asked in my mom's group, and I said, you know what, I'm going to answer it on the podcast. It was, how do you teach children about friendships? Now, again, this is Ashley's perspective, Ashley's point of view. One of the things that I always say now, this wasn't an always being the totality of my life. This is in the here and the now, the healed version of Ashley. The I call myself sometimes I'm like, Ashley, you're 5 years into your healing journey, and actively healing. You started 7 years ago, but now we're in the active part and you are a lot level headed, a lot more level headed, a lot clearer in your spaces than you were before. So, what would you tell your younger self about friendships? And I would say, and I've heard this before, but it's okay to really date people. And what I mean by that is really getting to know someone before you slap the label of friend. Because for me, I hold relationships very dear, very sacred. And children are so innocent that they can bounce back. Their resilience level is a lot higher than ours as adults. But also, you all know that saying where it says sticks and stones break my bones, but words will never hurt. Well, that's a whole lie because words are some of the most damaging things. And some of the most damaging wounds have came from words. And so teaching my children that how you speak to someone matters. How they speak to you matters. How they support you matters. How you support them matters. Interests matter. Do you guys have like similar interests? Are you able to learn about what they're interested in, and are they able to learn about what you're interested in? All of those things I believe go into foundational components of a friendship. And so for me, talking to my boys about this, making sure that you all know that it's okay to just start off as people like, we're cool, we have a good time together. And then allowing the time, allowing the situations, allowing things that kids grow through to build up and to see, hey, yeah, this is somebody that I can rely on. This is somebody that's dependable. Looking at even what for a child it looks like to be dependable. My 9-year-old said, there's a few kids in his school where they are all into wrestling. And so they want to start a wrestling group. And he said, we started a wrestling group and we meet on these days, and, such and such didn't even come, for a few weeks. And then we seen him on the playground and we asked him, well, what happened? And he was like, oh, I just didn't want to do it anymore. And he said, they asked this young man, well, why didn't you just tell us? And he was like, oh, well, it didn't matter. Because of the conversations that we've had, for him, he doesn't understand the term red flag. But for me, I'm like, oh, he recognized that wasn't cool. So those are things that you look out for. So teaching children how to establish friendships, of course, is learning how to just be them authentically. And I think it starts at home, validating who they are, where they are. That's the number one way to teach them about friendships, is through themselves and through the parenting and the parent-child relationship. Validating who they are, where they are. Not wanting them to be more of anything or less of anything, because as we as adults know, the world will do enough of telling us what we are and what we are not. And it's important that we know exactly who we are. And so when that validation and that affirmation comes from home, when they show up in the school settings, the sports settings, whatever social event they show up into, it's less likely for them to morph into that environment. But they're going to stand out because they understand their worth and their value. And so that is what I would say would be the core essence of teaching children how to be friends, is teaching them how to love themselves, how they are, where they are. And as they go into relationships with other people, other children, fostering that there. So I hope that makes sense, y'all. Okay. I said, this last episode, I just wanted it to be light. I don't really have any stories, nothing heavy happening. I just wanted you all to really get the content from the moms that have graced this platform again in season 2. Go back and listen to the episodes. Put your notes to action. Put their words to action. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me again at the THEE parentnetwork@gmail.com, and I will get back with you. But that's all, y'all, for today's episode and for season 2. Thank you so much for every download, for every like, for every share, for every listen. I have placed some episode clips on our YouTube channel, so you can follow us there at the Parent Network on YouTube, and at underscore the Parent Network underscore on Instagram. Again, all of that information will be linked in this episode. I love you all to life. Season 3 will be launching shortly. Be on the lookout for these fire interview with our dads. Until next time, y'all.